Hey everyone, welcome to the drawing class. I'm Miss Felicia and today we're drawing carameled apples and you get to pick the design.
Now I'm going to show you how to draw two different types of carameled apples today. One that's just a regular carameled apple, and then we're going to add a couple details to make it a poisonous carameled apple. So what we're going to do first is draw the outline of our apple. Now I covered how to do this in the video, How to Draw an Apple, and I go into really good, slow detail for you to learn how to do that in that video. If you haven't watched that yet, either go back and do that first or follow my instructions. They're just not going to be quite as detailed this time. So we'll start with a circle and you're going to press really lightly with your pencil. Pull your hand back on your pencil and just do the best circle right in the middle of your page that you can. You probably don't want it to be too huge, but not too small either. I go around a few times to get my circle as round as possible, but I also draw very, very lightly. This is because we're actually going to erase most of this circle. Okay, so now we're going to focus on the rest of the outline of the circle. Find the center of the top of your circle, and then come down just a little bit and draw two dots on either side of that imaginary middle ground that you've imagined. So we've got two little tiny eyes right at the top of our circle. But they're not actually eyes, they're just reference points for us. We want to make sure that they're parallel and just a little bit down from the top of the circle. We also need to make sure that we have two dots at the very bottom of our circle. Now these you're going to draw actually on the line of your circle, but you're going to space them apart just a little bit more than the ones you did on top. So these have a little bit more space here than these do. Then we'll connect the two sides. So we'll come to the right side. You're gonna just bump up to hit that circle. So start on the dot, bump up to hit the circle. Trace your circle around about a third of the way, and then you're gonna start angling in until you come to that bottom right dot. Here I angled in a little bit more than I wanted to because I want this line to be really smooth with no corners. So I'll erase that. So here I've got a nice smooth line that connects one dot to the other. Let's do the same thing on the other. We'll come here to that top left dot, swing out to touch the edge of that circle. Slowly curve back in until you hit the dot. Now you can see here, my circle was much wider than the skinnier part of the apple. An apple naturally curves in at the bottom. That's why our circle was just for reference. Now to connect the two on the bottom, all we'll do is draw a little hill. So we'll start on one dot. We'll just do a small bump up and then connect back to the other dot. If you need to smooth out these lines and make sure they're really smooth, you don't want any corners. They're just going to be really smooth lines here on the bottom and the top. Okay, now we're going to draw the stick, the little popsicle stick that sticks out of the top of a carameled apple. You're going to draw a vertical line. Now that's a line that goes up and down, straight up and down, and it's going to hit your left dot. So we'll draw a straight line down, right through that left dot and down a little bit further. And then I want to try to draw the same line here on the right side. It goes up to the same height and down to the same bottom. We'll connect these two lines with a small little smile. And if any of your lines don't quite hit the smile, you can always draw them in. Then we'll make the top of the popsicle stick by a slightly curved little top. Great, that's the outline of our apple. If you have any other guidelines that are showing, You can erase them now. That's why we always draw our guidelines really lightly so that they're easy to erase and we don't have a bunch of extra lines and erased lines left over. Okay, so here's the outline of our carameled apple. Come to either side of the apple and put a dot. This is so that we keep the caramel kind of going straight across so it doesn't go slanted or to one side. Although, is this going to be perfect? No, a drippy carameled apple is not going to be perfectly straight across. So don't sweat about it. Don't worry about it. Just put a dot on either side of your apple as a place for your eye to go. Okay, we'll connect these two dots with the drips of the caramel. These are going to be S-curves, and they can look however you want them to look. If you are going for the poisoned apple look, though, you do want to make your two longest ones right here in the middle. So I'll show you that because that can go for either the carameled apple or the poisoned apple, and either one will work. So we'll just connect the two here with some S-curves. We're going to make two long drips in the middle, and then we'll come up to the side. Your carameled apple is going to look different than mine. You're just making squiggles from one dot to the other. However it looks is fine. You also want to add a little bit of the wrinkles in the caramel so that it looks like it's drying and kind of melting onto itself. The best place to put these wrinkles are right in the curves. So I'm going to draw a line that comes right next to the other curve, and it's just a little S-curve up on top of it. I'll do that down here. It doesn't really matter where you do it, just a good place to do it is down here in the drips. Some can be short, some can be long, it doesn't matter. You can even do a couple random drips on the apple itself. Okay, with that, the caramel apple tracing is over. If you want to stop there and you don't want to do a poisoned apple, fast forward to the bonus tip section and I'll show you how to color it in. If you are going to do the poisoned apple, we're just going to add a couple more lines. So right here in the middle, we're going to add a nose for this skull type of drippage that the caramel is going to have. So we'll go in the middle and we're going to do an upside down heart. Just like that, in the middle. And then we're going to make two eyes. Now the eyes need to be uneven and interesting shaped. So you're going to do oval-ish type shapes, but again, don't make them exact. They are going to point though down and away from the center. They're both going to be like this, going this way, okay? So if you want to watch me, I'm going to do a wiggly oval here. See how the skinnier part is towards the top right and the thicker, wider part's down here on the bottom. So my oval is pointed up diagonally. I'll do the same thing on the other side, and it's not going to be the same size or the same shape. There you go. So now I've got my two eyes and my nose for my poisoned carameled apple look. I'm going to add a couple more of these little drip lines here under the eye, and then almost like eyebrows over the eye, wherever they fit. And then I'll do one up here on the bridge of the nose and underneath. Okay, so we've got lots and lots of detail and fun things to color in. Let's head to the bonus tip section and I'll show you how. Okay, for the bonus tips, this is the regular carameled apple. Now, I've already colored it in so that you can see I've chosen a green apple with caramel on top. You can make a red apple or a yellow apple, whatever you want, but typically I've seen carameled apples that are green, so that's what I've chosen. I used a light green, and what I did was colored the whole bottom, but if you look carefully, I pressed really hard down here in the corner and then underneath all of the drips. This adds a little bit of a shadow, even though I'm not changing colors. So I just made it really, really thick underneath. I also outlined the entire apple with green. Now I'm gonna show you how to do all of these shadings with the poison apple, so keep watching even if you decided to do the caramel apple. The one thing I wanted to show you though, with specifically the caramel apple, is the caramel color. I don't have a caramel colored pencil, so I'm gonna make do with a light brown, and what I did here is I colored the whole thing with light brown. I pressed really lightly on most of it and just added a little bit of darker press over here on this side. To make the caramel color, I'm gonna go back with this goldenrod yellow, and again, pressing really lightly, I'm gonna try to mix the two colors. So it'll have a little bit of that golden haze and also a little bit of the brown. And hopefully that's gonna make that caramely, shiny color that I'm going for. If you decide to do the poison apple, you can use these same tips. If you want to do the caramel color on the poison apple, this is how you're going to do it. Unless you have a caramel apple color that you really like, I've mixed two, the light brown and the goldenrod, or like a dark orangey yellow, and just press lightly with both to mix them together and make that caramely color. Okay, now I'm going to head to the poison apple. Keep watching though, I'm going to show you how to do all of these little shadows to make your apple really stand out. So for the poison apple, I'm going to choose to do a red apple with green caramel on top. This is going to give it a real eerie Halloween look. Now, if you want to do a green apple with the caramel on top for the poison apple, that's fine. Choose what color you're going to do. The shading and the tips I have for you today will still apply. So just like this other apple, we're going to do whatever color you choose for the apple. Go ahead and color it all in, but press extra hard over here on the left side and then underneath all of the drips. I'll start by outlining just to make sure I have a nice crisp edge. Okay, now that I've outlined, I'm going to go ahead and color the rest of the apple. You can pause here to color yours too. Great. Now, if you're doing the poisoned apple, you're going to also color in the two eyes and the nose, because they're going to be like places that the caramel or the poison, whatever's on top, has kind of opened up and bubbled out. So let's color those into whatever color you chose to do your apple. Great. Now let's color in that caramel. So if you choose to do that caramel color, again, you're going to want to do that light brown and yellow, or if you have a caramel color pencil, that'd be fine. I'm going to choose to do green on top just to make it a little bit creepy looking. Now, when you add the shadows, whether you're working with black even, or the caramel color, or the green, or whatever color, purple, that you choose to do this poison caramely stuff on top, the shadows are going to go on the left side here and underneath any of the wrinkles. I'll show you what I mean. So I'll start with outlining. Outline the entire space, pressing pretty hard to give it a nice defined outline. Okay, now I'm going to switch to a little bit darker shade, and I'm going to trace all the wrinkles. So go ahead and do that no matter what color you're doing. Take your darker shade or press really hard with the color you're using and trace all those wrinkles. After that, put your hand a little bit back on the pencil and do small circles. Okay, you're just going to press lightly and work underneath and do a layer that just goes under all those wrinkles, working in circular motions. great. You also want to add a little bit of shading here on the edge. On the left side, still those circular motions. And then you also want to add a little bit down here behind the stick and underneath that smile. Now switch back to your lighter color. In this case, I'm using green, whatever color you're using. Outline, if you're doing the poison apple, go ahead and outline your eyes and nose. If you're just doing the carameled apple, you'll just start working now on coloring the rest of your caramel in. Okay, now that everything's outlined pretty darkly and we've added all our shading, now we're gonna work with our lighter color and finish coloring, working right over those shadows, right on top of it to blend it in with our lighter shade, and then coloring the rest in. If you wanna get really fancy, you can leave it super light or even white right up on top of all the wrinkles. That'll add your highlight color. But if you don't wanna worry about that, just color it all green or whatever color you're working with. Now it's important to note that as I color this in, I noticed that certain areas need to be darker. So I'm just going back and adding another layer and pressing a little bit harder to make it blend, to make more shadow, whatever it is that I feel like I need. As an artist, you learn to take your time to add color where you need it, and to keep evaluating your work, keep looking at it to see what's missing and what's needed. Over time, you'll get better and better at this. I guarantee it. The only thing left to color in is the stick. You can choose any color you like. For mine, I don't want it to take away too much attention from the poison apple, so I'm gonna do this like gray brown. It's called sepia, and we're gonna go for that. It is pretty dark still, but it's not a lot of bright color. So I'm going to just press lightly, outline the stick, and then add the shadows on the left side and in down where it goes into the apple. So we'll start with the shadows. Once I'm happy with that, I'm just going to press really lightly and color the rest of the stick in. There you go.
No matter what style or colors you chose, I'm sure it looks great. This is a really fun sketch to experiment with, to try it again and see what else you come up with. It's really fun, so I hope you keep practicing. Now, don't forget to ask your parents to subscribe and click the bell so you know when the next drawing class comes out, and I'll see you next time in the drawing class.